Bro, Oda is a funny guy. He talked about how when an eye-patched pirate shows up in the series, just know that we're in the final stages of One Piece. That's how you know that the series is coming to an end soon. We got him this chapter, and it is somebody that we are all very familiar with. The eye-patch pirate might just be red-haired Shanks. Bro, okay. Getting into the sauce, I'm kind of jumping around everywhere. Sorry about that. It is 5 a.m. where I'm at currently. It is late at night. So, real quick, if you have not read One Piece Chapter 11, 67 spoilers yet, I will be linking it down in the pinned comment as well as typing it out piece by piece so you can go ahead and check it out there. And today, we have two sources for the spoilers. On one hand, we have Pewpiece, who always leaks the chapter every single week, and hopping into the fray is Worst Gen. Usually they do talk about spoilers a lot, they do drop details here or there, but they decided to drop an entire list of spoilers alongside Pewpiece. So we got a lot to freaking talk about. So, getting right into the nitty-gritty, Harald does end up helping the world government. But as it stands, he's doing some pretty decent work in my opinion. It's nothing bad yet. Later on, I'm sure it gets a lot worse. But here in this chapter, we hear that King Harald is simply helping Marines and taking down pirates. And I'm like, oh, that's not that bad. And Harald is so effective at his job that he gets an epithet. He gets a nickname. And guess what they call this dude? They call him the Monster in the Mist? Yeah, I have no idea why he has the Mist epithet, but apparently this is related to the Florian Triangle monsters, or they think he's one of them. And I don't know how to feel about that, chat. I kind of want to wait for full spoilers or just the chapter to come out to really draw a big conclusion. But it looks like there might be a link between giants and the Florian Triangle. Looking back at the Florian Triangle monsters, they're not exactly shaped like humans at all, or giants at all. They're like pillars. So maybe Oda's gonna re-tackle that and show us that it was just giants in the water. But right now, I'm kind of hesitant to draw that conclusion. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about that one. Harald, Florian Triangle monsters, are they just giants? Is Harald simply being related to those things? Is there like a deeper connection that Oda hasn't touched on yet? I would love to hear your guys' opinions on that down below. So now, the next thing we see in this chapter is that King Harald becomes a Knight of God. Yes, that is right, boys. He's not just the giant slave. No. He becomes God's blade. And we learn how the Abyss Mark kind of works. We don't have like an in-depth explanation yet, but we do know that there are 3 levels to it. Pewpiece doesn't list all the levels. They only mention that the lowest level is what Gunko was back at God Valley, which is God's Blade. But Worst Gen comes in with a different translation, and they say that the 3-part system is shallow, deep, and then abyssal, with abyssal being the highest rank, and Gunko at God Valley was just a shallow member. That could have changed current day, right? The Gunko we see today could very well be deep level or abyssal level. We're not too sure. But yeah, it looks like the tattoo, or the Abyss Mark, it levels up as you rank up within the God Knights. And it kind of makes me wonder, what rank was Garling back during God Valley? I think Garling would get cut a lot of slack if he was simply God's Blade. Hey, I'm still hoping for the guy. Like, why was his performance so lackluster? I get it. He was fighting the top of the verse, but still, he got done so dirty. Maybe it's just because he was a new recruit. Another thing that's interesting is that Worst Gen translates the Abyss Mark to the Shallow Sea Seal, which is very different. I do want to see more translations for that, but Shallow Sea Seal could imply that it is all connected to Emu, and Emu is Mother Nature dash water, because obviously you flip Emu backwards, you get Umi, which does mean sea. So having it be called the Shallow Sea Seal I think is very on the nose. But of course, like I said, with all these spoilers, we should take good chunks of it with a decent amount of salt. Until we get more translations, of course. We go on, and we learn that after Roger's death, because we're now, multiple years into the future, we're fast-forwarding a lot faster than I initially thought, but now that Roger is dead, the world plunges into the Great Pirate Era, and Marines start recruiting giants into their forces, which is something we already kind of knew about. The Marines back at Marineford had a whole giant segmented army, and we see that the God Knights have their little station up at the Holy Land, and that is where Harald meets Saint Garling Figarland. Bro, it's the Figarland flashback now. That is right. At first we had the Rocks era, the Loki thing, and now we're just hanging out with the Figarlands. And Garling gives King Harald a monster. Yeah, you heard that right. Garling gives Harald a creature that he can use for instant contact, which is brand new. Throughout the entirety of the series, whenever somebody wanted to communicate with another person, you use the Den Den Mushi. But it seems like the God Knights have creatures instead. I kind of wish they described this thing, because I feel like this is one of the more interesting plot points. Like, okay, wait, a creature? Like, it feels like we're playing Monster Zoo, brother. After that, the next bullet point we get, my God, my goat! Fisher Tiger. Fisher Tiger, after 600 chapters, approximately, is brought back into the story. We learn how he escaped Marie-Joie initially. It wasn't because he beat his master and he just broke out of those chains. No, no, no. The guy that saved him was a masked Holy Knight. And apparently, in this chapter, it heavily implies that the masked Holy Knight was none other than our boy, the Child of Destiny. That is right. Apparently, the person who saved him was Shanks. Bro, the reason we know this is apparently because later in the chapter, Harald tries to recognize Shanks, and Shanks kind of snaps back at him and says, hey, I'm a nobody. I don't know what you're talking about. And apparently it's very heavily hinted that Shanks is that guy. He is the one who freed Fisher Tiger. Whoa, what a domino effect, mind you. Like, he frees Fisher Tiger, he goes down to Fishman Island, and then he comes back and he attacks the Holy Land. What a guy, man. And now I'm wondering, did Shanks also help him during that day? Because it's not like we have a timeline for Shanks and where he's at. So it's like, yo, like for all we know, it could have been like a Naruto situation, which we kind of joked about the other day. It would be kind of like how Itachi wasn't the only one who massacred the Uchiha clan. He had help, which was Madara. And it's like, yo, maybe Shanks helped him during that day too. That would be insane. But yes, next thing we see is that we're back at Marie-Joie. And Harald is introduced to Shanks and Shamrock. And guess who is a part of the God Knights? That's right. Shanks is a former Knight of God. We kind of had inklings of this already. This isn't like the most shocking thing. The reason why I'm so like surprised and hyped up is because it's one thing to speculate, right? It's one thing to believe something, but it's another thing to see it on paper. It's like, yes, Shanks is or was a Knight of God, brother. And of course, that goes back to the beginning of the flashback where he had that tattoo on his arm. Of course, the tattoo was very small, but now that we know that there's levels to the tattoo, we can go back to St. Somers' tattoo, which is very large. It's like his entire arm. And it's like, yeah, that's probably level 3. And what we had with Shanks was probably level 1. It's all coming together. And we see Shanks was quickly able to join the Knights of God because his talents were on par and matched with Shamrock's talents, who is known as the rising star in the Holy Land. Okay, thank God, Ora, please. Oh, man. Yo. I am a big Garling fan. I like villains, just throwing that out there. I like villains in general. Go to any series, it's the same. I just love bad guys. because they're fun to follow. So seeing Garling's performance at God Valley, I believe that current day Garling is a lot stronger. But it's like, yo, if Garling was a bum at God Valley, it's not looking good for Shamrock. I wanted something to just, pick me back up and show me that the Figarlands minus Shanks still have it. So Oda saying that Shamrock and Shanks were pretty much equal back then. It's like, okay, here we go, dude. This is what we wanted, right? And it's like, no. Here we go. They're equal. They are just straight up equal. They're twins. I wonder what the power dynamic is like current day. Now that Shanks is missing an arm, it brings back up the whole, 2-arm versus 1-arm debate. But yeah, Shamrock confirmed to be not a bum. Of course, this is still like 15 years in the past, which is also 1 year before King Harald dies. But yeah, maybe things have changed in the past 14 years, but at least back then, Shamrock did have that innate ability, brother. Ooh. And Pupies, on their side of the spoilers, when they talk about Fisher Tiger and how when Harald met Shanks, he is the one who mentions that Shanks actually has a patch covering his left eye. Does this mean that Shanks is the eye patch pirate? Maybe. I know earlier in the video I was like, oh, it's Shanks, but I do want to wait until we get the chapter, because for all we know, it could be like a bandage, right? It could be a bandage, but the cynical side of myself, the side that wants to believe is saying that maybe it's an actual pirate eye patch, which would be pretty damn fire. And Pupies goes on, and they also add in that Shanks is at the Holy Land to gather information on Marie Ra. Why? Right? This was 15 years ago. By that point in time, I think Shanks did have his pirate crew. Okay, so I went ahead and just looked it up. Apparently, Shanks established his pirate crew 22 years ago. So, yeah, by this point in the story, despite Shanks being a Knight of God, he's still a pirate. So he could be gathering information to attack the Holy Land later down the road, like current day, for example, which would be crazy, mind you. Imagine, we cut back to current day, it's Shanks at the Holy Land. Oh, fire. But another idea that popped into my head is that maybe Shanks is gathering information for Monkey D. Dragon, the revolutionary. That could be the reason why current day Dragon said, oh, I'm going to wait for the Holy Knights to move. The reason why he knows about the Holy Knights and the reason why the Revs know about Marie Ra is because of Shanks. Shanks has possibly been feeding them information. So yeah, I think that is absolutely massive. And now, on to the final plot point of the chapter. Ida gets poisoned. Yes, that is right. Somebody from Estrid's hometown poisons Ida. Harald leaves Elbaph to go find a doctor. Loki, on the other hand, apparently overhears somebody talking about poisoning Ida. And what he does is that he goes to Estrid's village, the people that poisoned Ida, apparently, and he sets it on fire. He attacks the village, and at the end of the chapter, Loki says, Ida is my only mother. W. Wholesome ass moment, dude. Yeah, it's funny how far we've come from Loki calling Ida a gold digger, from Loki not liking Ida, and, Ida's trying to give him juice, and he's like, stay away! Give me the juice. We had so much growth in the Loki Ida department. So seeing it all culminate here, where he says, Ida's my mom, it's like, bro, that's good stuff. That is good stuff. And as far as Ida goes, I mean, low be it for me to say, I think she's cooked. I came into this flashback already expecting Ida to be dead. So seeing this here, I'm like, yeah, she's not surviving, brother. She is not surviving. Good stuff across the board. I absolutely loved this chapter. This sounds like greed, I admit it, but the only thing I'm kind of wondering if we'll get in the future, maybe next chapter, is Mihawk. Mihawk is this weird puzzle piece that we don't really know where he fits in, And I've kind of always placed them with the Knights of God or, you know, around Shanks during this timeline. So now that we're spending time 15 years in the past, it's like, yo, this is when Shanks is like fighting Mihawk. This is when their legendary duels happened because Shanks still has both of his arms in this chapter. So it's like, yo, Mihawk could very well easily show up next chapter. Maybe we hear about the clash. Maybe Shamrock or Garling, you know, make fun of Shanks for like, hey, you're fighting some bozo in the middle of nowhere. What's going on with that? You know, and then of course, like now that Shanks has that scar from Blackbeard, what is Shamrock's gonna say about it? Like, oh, hey, brother, who did that to you? Somebody was able to scar you? You want me to go kill him? I want to see the Figarland relationship, brother. Like, does Shamrock really like Shanks? How does Garling feel about it? How does Garling feel about Shanks going missing for all those years? I think this chapter is really set up to be amazing. I'm not even joking, brother. Like, God Valley, great, amazing stuff. But this chapter, ooh, you know, like this chapter is fire, man. It's crazy what Shanks can do. The Shanks tax is unironically real. I'm not even like the biggest Shanks fan, you know. I'm not even the biggest Shanks fan. I'm like, yo, this is pretty good stuff. But yeah, that is it for today, guys. Let me know what you thought about these spoilers down below. Again, I'll be linking both the sources down there because we got two different sources here. They're essentially talking about the same chapter, but just covering different bullet points or wording it differently. So take your pick on that. But yeah, we'll be back the next day when the full spoilers drop from Red On. He should have more translations too. And just so much good stuff. If you haven't yet, please consider liking this video, subbing. I'd really appreciate it. And if you have the extra time to spare, I have some gaming channels here on the side over at Syvduck, SYVDUCK, and Somnus Reacts, where I react to anime, all that good stuff. And yeah, it is currently... What time is it? Oh, wow, we knocked this video out pretty quick. Wait, really? How long have I been recording? Okay, I've been recording for like, 15 minutes. Yeah, it's 5:20 a.m. where I'm at, so... I am going to hit the hay. You guys sleep well or good morning, depending on when you're watching this. And yeah, stay safe, brothers. Peace out.